Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we simplify the college planning process for our families. I'm Kristen Clark. I work with students to help them figure out a career path. And I've got Bobby Hood here and Dale Troy. Bobby, why don't you say hello?
Yes, hi, I'm Bobby Hood. I'm a tutor for students taking the ACT and SAT, as well as for grad programs like LSAT for law school, med school, MBA, and things like that. And so I'm glad to be here. Yeah, every week we come here and talk about how to demystify, untangle the college planning process. And
Yes, and today we're excited to have Dale Troy with us. Now, Dale's with Crush College Stress, and what she's going to take us through is 3 common mistakes college freshmen make. So, Dale, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Very excited.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit. Why do college freshmen or incoming college freshmen need to prepare for college?
That's the key question. Unfortunately, I think parents assume that it's just an easy road from high school to college, and they don't realize how much of a gap there is and what kids really need to know to be confident and do well.
Well, and Dale, I will tell you this, and I noticed this when my kiddos were going to college. All of the parents were the first ones to go, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best 4 years of your life. And notice I said 4. Let's just pretend that's what it is. And we forget that that first year is scary and weird and lots of changes. So, because we remember the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then there are parents, of course, who are sending their first child to college, so they don't even have that personal experience of what it was like. I think parents who are sending their second or third, I mean, they have some idea, but even them, I think there's an assumption that high school is preparing kids for college. And that's, in my world, that's not really true. They're learning some academic skills, but even those academic skills are not the same that are needed on a college campus.
No, they're not. And let's, not forget this whole idea of COVID and what that did to our kiddos too. I mean, I've been watching some TikToks about some teachers, some college professors that are saying these kids are different because they lost a couple years of face-to-face, interaction with teachers. So they're actually changing their curriculum a little bit because to compensate for that. So it's a real thing.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those kids are having a tough time. I mean, they're not as well socialized. They're just not used to all the interaction that is required, the self-advocacy, things like that when they get to college. But even if we've taken away COVID, just like your average child, it's so different living in your home with your parents there supporting you and guiding you versus living on a campus where honestly you're really independent and you are alone until you develop those relationships and people that you can trust and go to. You're really on your own, and there's so many decisions to make and so much to be responsible for that our kids really aren't ready. And I just want to mention, I like to use the analogy of driving a car because, when your child turns 16, you don't just hand them the keys to the car. Some parent might, you might think, okay, well, they've been in my car for years and years. They must know how to drive. And they've been reading the book about all the rules, so they know how to drive. I mean, we wouldn't do that, right? We want them to practice. We want them to go to driver's ed. So I feel that college is the same. It doesn't matter how many times they visited a campus or read all the books about college life. It's not the same as having been there and having really felt what it's like. So my goal as a college success coach is to give them some practice, give them some tools and habits that are going to help them when they get to college so that they're not trying to figure it all out on their own all at once.
Yeah. So talk to us. So what do you suggest for them to know?
Well, since the title is 3 Common Mistakes, my number one thing that I feel needs to be learned before you get to college is using some kind of a planner, something where you're writing down, I believe in a physical planner, where you're writing down a structure for the day and you're figuring out how to use your time well, having everything written down in one place so that you have like a roadmap to follow.
Mhm.
Because most kids haven't done that in high school. They didn't need to. There wasn't that much to remember. But in college, there's so much to remember, and every day is different. It's
Mm.
not
Yeah.
in high
And
school, right?
I tell you, Dale, too, it's not only that, it's the teachers in high school are kind of keeping them on track too.
Yeah.
And and you're not going to have that in college. You're on, like you said earlier, you are on your own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have a planner, I mean, I teach what I call time blocking, and we figure out how to be very efficient for each day. And that means putting in not only your classes for the day, but study blocks and exercise time and when you're going to have your meals and, really everything. And once you do that, the student is going to feel like they're in control of the day, and they're not procrastinating because they know what they're supposed to do. It just it's such a game changer for the students that I work with who are already in college and are not doing that. Once I
Mhm.
teach them how to do that, I mean, their grades go up dramatically because before they were missing assignments or
Mhm.
sleeping past their class. All sorts of things were happening. So yeah,
Yeah, I think this is probably something really, uh, you know, from what you said at the beginning, Kristen, like that, you just drop the kid off in college and say, hey, you're going to have fun and you're going to figure it out. And we know that, so many students don't make it past the first year, that so many students end up having to take 5 years to graduate or even 6 years or whatever because they, weren't on the right track. They didn't do well the first semester or whatever it is, or they just feel out of place and they just leave and drop out, right? It happens so much more than you think, and just because it didn't happen to you, you think it's not going to happen to your kid. But one of the things is, you might say, hey, my kid's always done great in school and my kid's always been very organized and they got great grades in high school, and so a kid might think, oh, I don't really need this, I've always done well. But then they might discover, hey, this is a lot harder, it is a lot more challenging, and you can find yourself behind suddenly, right? You suddenly realize it's the beginning of October and you're already in trouble in all your classes. And it's just so much harder to catch up at that point. And it's all stressful enough emotionally, right? And so saying, hey, like, this is, I guess, right, what tools parents can give their kid, right, is like explain to them about planners, get them to talk to somebody who, like you, Dale, who can, help them understand how to do this, right? I didn't know how to do this when I
No,
was
and
in
I can
college.
tell you, okay, you guys, I still have that dream / nightmare that I've
Oh, yeah.
missed like an entire semester worth of classes.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah, so there is something around this having control and feeling
Mhm.
confident about all the things that you're doing, because if I'm this old and still having that nightmare, it's bad. Yeah.
Oh, and I think this is the other thing too, is I could see a kid saying, well, I just want to go and have fun and and I'm going to be able to study and figure it all out. But I mean, actually doing this lets you have more fun, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Because otherwise you get yourself behind and then you're stuck in the room trying to catch up on classes all the time. But if you stay
Mhm.
on track, you can go and have fun with your friends at night and do things, right? Because you did stuff during the day instead of sleeping all day.
No,
It's
well,
actually better.
that's so true. Also, I think students also think that homework is maybe an hour per class.
Right.
That's what it was in high school, but that's not true.
Yeah.
It's actually like 2 to 3 hours
Mhm.
for every hour that they're in a classroom, 2 to
Mhm.
3 hours of studying. So that really adds up. I mean, it's really a full-time job.
Yeah.
If you want to do decently.
Yeah.
So, they don't understand that. They think that there's going to be so much free time because I only have 2 classes a day. This is fantastic. But yeah, what are you supposed to be doing during that time?
Mhm.
So yeah, they need to know that. I mean, how are they supposed to know that if they've never done it?
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your second tip?
The second one is not asking for help.
Mm.
I think I mentioned self-advocacy before, which because, when they're living with us, we tend to get involved. Maybe we'll write an email to one of their teachers, or we'll stop by a classroom and say, oh, Johnny's having a problem with so-and-so. Can you help him? That we're not going to be there to do that. so they need to be able to not only speak to professors, but write an email, know that there are office hours, understand that asking for help is a good thing, that there are tutors, there are writing centers, there's career centers, there's all sorts of resources on campus. And if they don't use it, it's up to them to use them.
Absolutely. And I don't think people realize, like, I remember not knowing at the beginning of college that, about office hours and talking to professors. I mean, if you just go during office hours, and even if you aren't having a problem, if you go, the professor wants to meet you. If you go, I mean, we know, that studies show that the students who go to office hours get higher grades. And it's not just that the professor will straight up help you. You can say, I'm working on this assignment and I'm having some trouble. I want to talk to you about the ideas or whatever. The professor will help you and give you ideas that, that's fine. And they will do that. They're there.
And
absolutely.
tutoring.
Yeah. And the free tutoring that's available on college campuses. Absolutely. The
And
college
they
is there
say
to help you not get behind.
Yes. And they say on the tutoring centers, if you give them a paper 24 hours before it's due, they can, I'll use the word guarantee, but typically it's one full grade difference.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, it just comes from, not only do they not really kind of know, but they're embarrassed, especially freshmen. They think, well, I'm supposed to know this. I don't want to stand out as being somebody who doesn't know, or maybe I don't belong here. I'm stupid. And I don't, so they don't want to call themselves out.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So I think as parents, it's important to emphasize that asking for help is actually an adult thing, and that it's good, it's positive, it shows that you care, it shows that you want to improve. I mean, you're going to school to learn, you're not assumed to know these things. So but I think as parents we have to really talk about that, because they don't realize that.
And make it normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, tip number 3.
This might sound silly, but too many college students don't get enough sleep. They start prioritizing their social life, especially freshmen. Freshmen are so focused on making friends and fitting in and feeling comfortable on the campus. So, they think that they can get away with not a lot of sleep. Of course, there are many negatives of not getting a lot of sleep. Number one, they could get sick a lot. They're just not taking care of their body. Number two, they could end up sleeping through classes because they can't get up in the morning. And then, what happens, as you were saying, if they start to get behind or they're not going to class, and they start to feel really anxious and feel like just totally overwhelmed. So I think we have to, as parents, talk about why sleep is so important, that you need to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. And they have to use that planner to figure out how they're going to get that much sleep. So I think that it's super, super important. And also, I think parents today are still waking their kids up to go to school. And obviously you can't do that when they're in college. So they maybe, start to say to them, I'm not going to wake you up anymore. Let's practice for college. Let's see how you're going to do without me there.
That's
Absolutely.
really good advice.
Yeah. All right. Well, and now I know, Dale, that you also have a class coming up to help students with this, because we all know that parents aren't always listened to because we're still in stupid, phase while they're teenagers. We haven't hit that smart phase of their 20s yet. So I know that you have a class. Talk to us about what that's about.
Yes. This summer I have small group programs. I actually have 4 different groups in June and July, where I have condensed all the information that your kids know into 4 sessions. And so my program, just so you know, is called College Success Formula.
Nice.
And it covers 4 pillars. It covers all the academics, the social aspect of college, the physical health aspect of college, and emotional well-being. So like the stress and all of that. So in a very short period of time, your child is going to learn like all the key things that they need to be thinking about. And there's a workbook that goes along with it, so they can actually write down what we've talked about, and they'll be able to bring it with them to college. It's going to be super fun. I have great new videos that are animated that the kids are going to enjoy watching.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, so I encourage you to be proactive and like give your kids a head start into getting used to the idea of college and what it's really going to be like when they get there.
Dale, what's the first start date of those so I can put it in the comments?
Oh, I don't know. I
Maybe
honestly
early
don't.
June.
Yeah, June and July. There's 2 in June,
Excellent.
2 in July, 2 groups.
Okay, so people can check out your website and look at the options. I think, it's very easy to say, oh, it's, summer after, we've just had decision day, right? Everybody knows where they're going now. And now it's time to start thinking, okay, let's start getting ready for fall. And I absolutely would say every parent needs to think about doing something to start getting ready. And this is a good way to organize yourself and come up with some, the different things that you need to do to be there, because you can't just, like we said at the beginning, you can't just drop the kid off and wave and say, hey, have fun.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it really will take the stress off the parents because parents can't, I've been doing this for 5 years. Parents can't just all of a sudden know what it is their kids need to know and have it in an organized fashion. And as you said, they often don't like to listen to parents.
Yeah. The third party information is always helpful, right?
Yeah. So I hope to see some of you there. And the kids that I have done this program before, they all say they just felt so much better, so much calmer when they went to college because they felt like they knew so much more than everybody else.
I bet. Yeah. That's part of the thing is just, feeling like you have a handle on things would help so much, right? Because everybody feels so lost at first, I'm sure.
Exactly. And we don't want
That's
that.
great.